Opinion, silence, confusion. Opinion. This is how it goes. Correction. This is what I would like to say. You are perfectly entitled to think of me as a rather sad person for logging on to my profile on Facebook, write, record and leave a note on such a topic as the time I've spent on Facebook. Why would I want to do that? And or why did I actually do it? Why would someone in their rightful state of mind would do such a thing, you may ask? It is a question for which I believe I may have the answer. It is, I may say, a perfectly reasonable question and very important, very appropriate too. I have to admit I am in full agreement with it. I mean, I am in agreement with your questions, assuming you do have them. As you read or listen to this text, these slightly bizarre writings of mine, this paradoxical and obnoxious story, please note, I am considerate enough not to call it a thought. I call it a scribble, an attempt to entertain myself and anyone kind enough to read or listen to it. I must therefore give myself a little credit for this. But how numb, how pointless, how dull, how daring. These are just a few more interjectional opinions, points and further questions which deservedly should be placed against this very text I wrote. If at this point you haven't yet fallen asleep with boredom from what you've read or listened to so far, I may yet be able to distract your attention a little further, if I may. I have the full intent of explaining myself. I believe I have the answer that may yet enlighten the dissatisfied wandering curiosity of your minds. I plan to enrich your souls with the true wisdom that came to me via the social networks. Me, the self-made guru, with my profound knowledge and wisdom of virtual sociopathic behavior. Please follow the prose. Read my words. Truth will reveal itself to you. Believe in the path of your enlightenment. All will be worth it in the end. There isn't a voluntary intention to digress from my focus point and objective personal view and opinion, although I do understand if at this point your thoughts may have alerted you and or diverted you to a very different type of question, which would be, is this guy on drugs? Has he befallen again into the habit of taking daily high dosages of the most powerful hallucinogenic cocktails of illegal drugs known to man? Topped perhaps by a variety of prescribed medication for mental imbalance, combat depression and or anti-memory loss drugs? He might even be using it in its digestion, substantially large amounts of alcohol in the form of liquids known as red or white wine, or perhaps higher percentage beverages of the spirit kind in order to help the drugs down his throat to help him achieve a full and effective result. Such cocktails would potentially get him to higher heights of self-delusional paranoia, you may rightfully ask yourselves. No, none of the above is true, although potentially conceivable it may be. Such behavior, though, is deemed acceptable in most societies of the Western Hemisphere today. Most of it tolerated and even encouraged by the medical professions and the pharmaceutical industries and the drinks industries. Or wouldn't all the latter be the most successfully sustained companies in the stock markets of the majority of the countries of the so-called civilized world? In modern times, you may go for a consultation at your GP complaining of a twitchy muscle pain, and you will come out with prescribed medication that will send you into a journey of outer space. your enjoyment and pleasure of the ride will be so high that every other week afterwards you will go back complaining of various muscle twitchy pains, namely of your brain muscle, that has become numb once the effect of your ride has died away and your emotional reactions have become so lifeless that you no longer may think of yourself as human. You might as well have been a tree or a piece of furniture or a rock. Most people around you would have given you the same level of attention. Such is your emotional and intellectual responsive reaction to those around you. Either that, or you embrace the world with such full force that everyone around you may think of you as the new Messiah. Your emotional intelligence becomes ultra-effective. Suddenly your communication powers makes you invisible. Yet you are able to transcend radio waves. Your words travel further afield than ever before. A smiley face and a hint of a typed word with your ID initials attached to it, or any other electronic or web message, makes the whole world stop. Your accuracy transcends all previous communications known to man. You are now their spiritual guide. Blessed be the description of that magical substance allocated for a 30-day supply. Blessed be your GP, and blessed be the homemade cocktail. But now you've run out. The light has gone out. All is but darkness. The light no longer shines. You can hardly move. Your speech is blurred. You are no longer the same. People can't understand or recognize you. You don't just sound different. Physically you look very different too. Your drooper face and eyes intimidate everyone around you. The sparkle in the voice and words that yesterday were so powerful and which supplanted radio waves in all the electronic virtual world, all is but gone. All the magic is gone. What can you do now? You feel empty. Your world, full of brightness and color, is now a mere black and white blur with some shades of grey. Not the shades of grey you're thinking of. You can only see a few meters away. Hardly anyone can understand you. You spend your time mostly in silence, staring into oblivion. You have no other option other than go back to your GP, and this time complain about the lack of twitchiness of your brain, and of how dead it has become without the chemical effects of the prescribed wonder drug that both kills you and makes you feel alive, and without which you no longer feel alive. Without it you only feel half human. You can't communicate. Your eyesight and speech becomes blurred. You need a constant feed. There's no option, no alternative. Human or non-human, this is it. This is part of the survival struggle. This is your battle. With or without it, the show must go on. Without it, your existence becomes nullified. You no longer feel part of the world. In an age in which the robotic human behavior has been so largely altered by the combination of all of the above, alcohol, drugs prescribed and non-prescribed, greed, lies and cynicism, in addition to the permanently vast amount of information and advertising live feeds from the TV, web and other media sources, all humans, and some individuals in particular, go through states of metamorphosis unaware of their own personality and or of their behavioral and physical changes. Intentionally or unintentionally, this type of behavior has a cause and effect on other fellow humans as the natural outcome advent from behavioral copycat reaction. The reply, therefore, to your initial questions, and which gave origin to this text, would be a resounding and less revealing answer. You will have to find out for yourselves. Ha 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 ha! Would I laugh? Got you there. Although I leave the promise that it may truly yet happen. All your questions may come to be answered. If you were so kind to leave a comment to my story, or you may choose not to write or leave any comment at all, because it's not worth it and you have a lot of better things to do with your time. I couldn't agree more with you. I think you are doing the right thing. More importantly, if you don't even bother to read my note, my little story, how would I know if you read it or listened to it or not? So I'll take it from the perspective that someone will read it or listen to it. I have to. I haven't got a second option. Otherwise, the whole point of my scribbling would be lost. I would have to go down the pub one more time and have another drink instead, or browse the internet, or read another book, or do a number of countless other things that wouldn't perhaps make as much sense as my little attempt at being able to write a little fictional story of interest, perhaps to you or to me. Most likely I would have to be doing something that I wouldn't be able to share at all, and that would be okay too. Despite all the unanswerable questions that arise at this stage of my ambitious scribbling, I am in the mood, and I just feel that nothing can stop me now. I am inspired, I am. Or am I? I really am serious though. I am deeply serious. As serious as my physical existence. As serious as my life. As serious as my fictional wonder. As serious as my virtual personality is serious and real. And for me, what I have to say or write about, it is a matter of importance. I feel the need to remove some of the content of my subconscious mind, transfer it to the paper, transfer it to a digital file in the form of words, in order to make my conscience lighter by the relief and burden of it all. I have to vacate space for more renewable content, by creating a space to allow for fresh ideas into the grey matter, to spice and spruce them up, throw fire into the combustion, cause the little volcano to erupt, to vomit its contents out unashamedly and spread out its lava and ashes through the hills of wonderment. I must attempt to bring sobriety and logic to the vague infinity of its impossible conclusion. All does really matter to me. It matters also because I can share it. If I couldn't share it, and if it was only to keep in my diary, perhaps it wouldn't have mattered as much, and I most probably wouldn't have written about it. But as things stand, I am just going to continue doing it. I'm doing it now. I feel an enormous buzz within me telling me to do it. Write a bit more, a few more words, another phrase, another paragraph. Scribble non-stop. Have fun, laugh, make your readers laugh. But how will you know? Guess you'll have to share it, and hope that if anyone reads or listens to it, that they will laugh a little. In true honesty, I'm hoping and wishing that you do read or listen to my story. I mean the story I've written in which you find yourself currently trying to make some sense of, because you are such a nice person and a good friend. Or maybe you just wished you hadn't started reading it. Or why you are still reading or listening to it. Then there's a big chance you will actually like it. It makes sense to you. It makes you giggle a little. It has put a smile on your face. It gave you some kind of inspiration. It freed you from your own constraints. You then will click the like button. You will click the little thumb symbol with real satisfaction, as a form of expressing your sympathy and admiration for my efforts. Or because you liked it so much and you were so moved by it all, you write a little praising comment about how my story was so good, or how bad, and in which case it won't be praising but rather a severe criticism. I, on the other hand, assure you that either way, it would make me just a little happier. It would be a rather satisfying thing to have a little comment from you. A criticism, one thing or another, something. A line telling me how bored you all were from my silly story or stories, and or how you could not even read it, because it didn't make sense at all. And my use of language and grammar is really so poor and appalling. My punctuation is abysmal.
I am sort of aware or conscious about this last bit, but I don't seem to know how to actually correct it. I simply don't know better, which in itself is quite a big flaw in a not less flawless attempt at prose creation.
But no one should really blame me for my attempted ambition. That's what I would say. After all, I am at Cambridge, or should I say, I am in Cambridge. Prose? Is it really prose, or scribbling of a self-deluded fool? When I first got to know about social networks, and about Facebook in particular back in 2007, my first reaction was, I looked it up, I sort of got the idea of how it worked, I got the picture as to what the hype was all about. I even created my own profile without a photograph, and the least information possible about myself. I then hardly ever logged onto it for the next 3 years. I was not interested in it. It was just a new thing. I was against it. I didn't really like it. It seemed to me as a sort of invasion of my privacy, our privacy. I guess other people perhaps share the same opinion. It was also just another shallow thing from the internet. Approximately 3 years passed by, and in the final months of 2010, I logged back onto my profile, looked at a few of the profiles of the friends I had acquainted myself with in the past. All of them I had got to know previously in the real world, either through work or different kinds of social circumstances. The very few people on my list of Facebook friends, which remained at less than 20 for a long time, were people I had been acquainted with or I knew in real life. I looked at their level of activity, which was very low or non-existent amongst the majority of them. Some of those same friends whom still have their profile active, they pretty much keep the same number of friends, they keep the same level of activity as when they first created their profiles, which is still pretty much 0. I can only guess if they do still remember their passwords to log on to their Facebook profile. They could and don't care less if they didn't have a profile at all. I don't see this as negative in any way. On the contrary, it makes me think that they simply have too busy lives to spare a bit of time for Facebook, and they simply don't see or feel the need to share their social lives in a virtual format. And again here the reason may be because their non-virtual social lives are already busy and fulfilled as it is, and they much prefer the contact and share of their affairs on an eye-to-eye level. And let's face it, the exchange of a smile or a laugh, a bit of gossip or news, and whatever else people like to share with each other on a personal get-together can never be replicated virtually through social networks. On the same level, there are things shared through the same networks which can't be replicated on a person-to-person social contact, and for those reasons I personally think the best choice is perhaps to have a right balance between the two forms of socializing, and on what we choose to share with others or not to share could be perhaps the best combination. After all, the social networks and the internet in particular are here to stay, regardless of whether we choose or not to use these forms of new media to communicate with the world and share or not share part of our personal lives or our opinions and views about the same old world we live in throughout our relative short passages through it. In regards to my own personal use of social networks and or Facebook in particular, I don't use any other. Went from 0 activity during more than 3 years to logging on to Facebook almost every day since the latter months of 2010, except for the odd days when I neither had access to a computer or internet access, which didn't happen very often. Nowadays, we are more likely to be connected to the wire than not, unless we choose not to. Silence, schizophrenia, paranoia, delusion, cowardice, waste of time, pointless, worthless, worth it, thought constructive, invisibility, exposure, pretentiousness, disguise, mischievousness, I spy with my little eye, social climbing, dystopia, social alpinism, delusion, accusations, delusions, silent accusations, judgments, misunderstandings, silent approvals, interesting, approval, purpose, useless, substance, nice, nasty, balance, wrong, right, rejection, social contact, no social, good, banality, important, ignorance, sentimental, thoughtful, aggressive, violent, bad, restricted, stupid, low, rude, high, informative, not informative, sharing, not sharing, influence, no results, going nowhere. Confusion, literacy, illiteracy, achievements, no achievement, change, no change, people moved, no movement, popular, atrocious, exhibitionist, showing off, educational, erotic, laughs, sexual, hot, tits, legs, arses, nakedness, name tags, photo tags, sentimental bullshit, laughing, drinking, parties, cold, tears, criticism, animals, birds, causes, reading, anger, adverts, adblock works, invitations, exclusive, separations, traveling, photographs, politics, carelessness, envy, jealousy, attention-seeking, likes, hates, fake smiley faces, networks, copying, earthly, virtual, uploads, downloads, poems, quotes, news, enraged, imbalanced, unbalanced, deranged, politics, language, arts, sports, protests, geography, utopia. We don't like you. We don't want you. Go, wait, leave, away, don't, go, back, come.
Friends? Friends? What friends? You don't have any friends? You don't have any friends. It's mine. It's mine.
Opinion, Silence and Confusion is a text written by me, Artur Duarte, in March 2012, although I've only chosen to record it and share it today, March 2013. Thank you for listening.